The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ, the pain in the butt.
And that's right, Mr. Front Page News.
Just where I want to be, on the front page. It makes life easier for people to throw darts at me.
The voice of no reason. Now we're going to call you, but let's get to this Chamber of Commerce thing first, because it is the most convoluted thing I have ever seen. Now, look, let me preface this by saying I have absolutely no use, and I'll be frank, for any Chamber of Commerce, because it's their job to screw the taxpayer.
That's right.
If you remember, you remember what's his name there? The one
Rob Mellion.
Rob Mellion used to get an hour, even though he didn't live in the city. None of them live in Fall River or New Bedford or any of the crap holes whose Chamber of Commerce they run. But they tell the taxpayer that you're supposed to pay more taxes so people like them who live out of town can make money in Fall River and then carpetbag it out of the city. So I don't particularly care for their mission. I understand it, and I've said it more than once. He's doing his job. It's his job. But I don't particularly care for somebody who goes in there and continues to advocate for a lower tax factor for businesses, when in fact in the more affluent cities they have the maximum tax factor, and it never hurts their business. So they don't look at reality, and now it's finally been proven. It has finally been proven. A Chamber of Commerce article actually said, and I've got the entire thing, it had the listing of all the cities, and because somebody actually sent it to me.
I read the article twice, believe me.
Yeah, but I mean, I've got the list in that article.
Oh, yeah, there's a list of 100 cities in that article.
But they actually, and I don't know, I'm going to tell you, whoever wrote this article, they should be committed to an institution or arrested as being the greatest pathological liar in the world. Now, this article is entitled Best Places to Retire in 2019. And you know what the best place to retire in 2019 is?
The Whaling City.
New Bedford. Now, look, New Bedford's a little bit better crime-wise than Fall River, but New Bedford. Now, you're going to tell me this isn't generated by chambers of commerce. I wonder how much our Chamber of Commerce paid whoever got this up. Now, this is the start. New Bedford is a charming coastal city with a long history as one of the region's busiest seaports. So that's the beginning of New Bedford, which then we know, oh, and it boasts a low crime rate. Oh, yes, okay. Fall River, number 5, the number 5th best place in the United States to retire.
Well, at least we made number 5.
Yeah, we're in the top 5.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we're not in the top. If it was a bad category, I could go. And this is the write-up on Fall River. Fall River, Mass. is a city just under 90,000, located on the eastern shore of Montauk Bay, at the base of the Taunton River. With its mild seaside climate. Yeah, you ever been here in February, pal? Picturesque waterfront. A picturesque waterfront. Really? Really? And a slew of unique neighborhoods to choose from. Really? Yeah, you got drug-infested Corky Row, or you can go to drug-infested Heroin Heights. Fall River is an attractive destination for retirees. If you don't get rolled by a junkie, the people in the high-rises won't even come out. The area that would become Fall River was settled way back in the 17th century. The city boasts a rich and varied history and ethnically diverse populace. Waves of Irish, French, Canadian, and Portuguese immigrants drawn by economic opportunity afforded by Fall River's textiles, granite, and marine industries. When the hell did we ever have a marine industry in this city?
1700s.
Well, it was definitely before my time, because New Bedford is historic for marine.
Exactly.
I mean, let's face it, Moby Dick takes place in New Bedford.
If we had such a thriving marine industry, don't you think we'd have more piers along the front?
Yeah,
more.
Exactly, but we didn't. They have settled in the city through the centuries, granting it a unique, colorful category. In fact, 37% of residents claim Portuguese ancestry. That's down from like 60. In addition to its unique cultural makeup, has a number of points of interest that prove attractive to history buffs will love Battleship Cove, yeah, with all 2 ships, which is the largest naval exhibit in the world. Really? Have you ever been to Hawaii and seen the monuments around Pearl Harbor? Fall River Heritage State Park, oh yeah, that's a classic. Hiking opportunities for physically active seniors. With a median monthly housing cost of $804, which obviously, if anybody knows it, and nearly 20% share of citizens get this. This article was just recently written. Apparently, they haven't looked at crime stats nationwide. The fact that we were the number 1, the number 2 in New England, number 1 in low crime.
Obviously, they're missing all the shootings.
We got a shooting every other day. And a high density of physicians, because everybody's getting treated for gunshot wounds. Or stabbings, or they're sick. The hard numbers further reinforce Florida's reputation as an excellent retirement destination. Oh, my Lord. If that doesn't prove, when you're dealing with something like a Chamber of Commerce that has a vested interest in something,
well,
they manipulate fact for their own. Now, I'm going by government statistics, government crime statistics, the fact that we have been designated as a high crime area by virtually every statistical category, from the federal government down to the state. And these people are trying to say, this is a good place to live. And anybody who believes that will probably be looking for those people in a week.
Well, I mean, did you see which one was number 100?
Oh, I'd have to look back at my phone.
Largo, Florida.
Largo,
Florida.
Yeah, and I see Cambridge was in the top 10, but you're going to compare Cambridge with its colleges and its affluence. And, you know, it doesn't even make sense, because anybody with a modicum of intelligence is going to say, if you're only paying $804 for the housing costs in this city, it's got to be because nobody wants to live here and because we've got a very low median income. You notice they don't put down the median income.
No, they didn't.
They put the median cost of living.
Right.
So anytime you get a really low cost of living, it's because people can't afford anything.
That's it.
I mean, this is, you know, like I said, when you read things, have some critical thinking and reason this out.
What's interesting is a lot of people posted that article on social media, and all the comments, there wasn't one comment that was positive about the article. They were all negative. You know, obviously he's smoking something. Obviously he's on something. And you know, this is available on the Chambers of Commerce website. It's I guess it's an organization which represents all of the chambers of commerce. And now New Bedford and Fall River only have one chamber of commerce. They've merged. So again, we're losing our identity. We lost our identity when they got rid of Fall River Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So.
Yeah, and what does that say? Always remember, you know, that's one thing about us. We have good memories. We always remember Rob Mellion getting up there every year trying to get low taxes for his friends who live out of town and have businesses here while we pay more. He didn't care what, and he manipulated statistics and facts, and he was given all the time in the world, and that's terrible. But like you said, I'm glad there weren't too many positive comments, because anybody that actually believed this, they need serious medical attention. And I'm glad they did say we have a high density of physicians, because they really need a couple if they believe this one.
Well, and you know, it's just, the article was just, I mean, when I started looking at it.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, when I started looking at it, the article opened up nicely. It really did open up nicely with, you know, what they were focusing on. They were focusing on income, not income, on cost of living. They were focusing on amenities, and they were focusing on medical provision, how much medical provision is available. They weren't focusing on anything of substance.
So how can you retire these? Now, let's look at this list. We're just going to go through the first 5. New Bedford. So we all knew New Bedford. Nobody has to tell us. New Bedford isn't much better than Fall River.
But they're number one.
And they say they got low crime. The next one is Quincy. Now, look, I'm fairly familiar with Quincy.
So am I.
Quincy's not the greatest place in the world. It's nowhere near as bad as Fall River and New Bedford, but it's not a place I would like to retire. Because number one, if you're going to retire, why retire in New England? Because and what do they call Fall River's, you know, wonderful
moderate climate,
mild seaside climate.
Yeah.
Number one, we're not near the sea; we're near a river. So we're not a seaside resort here.
And as you said, come here in February and see how mild it is.
Yeah, come here in February, see how mild. January and February. Next one is Warwick, Rhode Island. Now Warwick's, you know, okay, it's Rhode Island. So that enough said. Then the next one really boggles my mind. New York, New York.
Yep.
Who would want to retire to the city of New York? It's one of the most, number one, New York State is one of the most expensive states, if not the most. They're in California, Massachusetts, are the 3 biggest tax states in the United States. A rent-controlled apartment in there is like $1 billion a month.
And you can barely get them.
And talk about crime. They got a police force larger than the city of Fall River.
Right.
So you really want to retire to New York City?
And they have a murder every day.
Yep, it's not quite as bad as Chicago anymore, and then we have Fall River. So enough said. You look at that list and you go, apparently everybody who works for the Chamber of Commerce is a hired gun with a total disregard for reality.
Of course.
So what are you going to say?
We knew that already.
Oh, we knew, but this is the icing.
This is just a
But now let's get to the big story. The story that my co-host, CJ, is instrumental in. Fall River City Councilor Steve Camara rejects the claim that he's not a Fall River resident. And Steve Camara goes on, and he says, quote, he did, the address he would, quote, occupy or intend to occupy as his principal residence, unquote. So when's he intend to do it? When he's done milking the city of Fall River? And then as the man who wrote the original article said, Mr. Pittman said, it would seem that Mr. Camara is ineligible and has either defrauded the city taxpayers and voters of a resident representative or perjured himself in his Homestead Act declaration, unquote. And it's true. And of course, our man, our overseer of right, CJ, has filed a formal complaint against him. But let's look at, because I have to get this, because this is absolutely, we've got Steve loves to pontificate. He's a legend. And this is his quote. Now, how ridiculous is this? This is about whether he's a resident or not, whether he defrauded a document, and he did one or the other. So what is he going to do? What all politicians do? We're going to forget about what we're talking about. You checked the box. We saw it. It said that's your primary residence. It didn't say, you didn't make a notation that you intended to. It said this is going to be my primary residence. And it hasn't been. And that document was done when? 2014? So in 5 years, you're contending this has never been your primary residence. So obviously, if that's true, you were guilty of perjuring yourself on your Homestead Act declaration.
Which is a felony.
Which is a felony. And if you did live there, you defrauded the voters of Fall River.
Which is voter fraud.
Which is voter fraud.
Which means you never can run again.
But in his best, and he always makes it, poor me, I am the defender of everybody. Even though you're so dumb that you don't understand that I'm so wonderful because John Kennedy is my idol, and I'm almost John Kennedy. Or two of them. But you're almost John Kennedy. So it's always that's it. You're standing up, and this is what he said. Not about, did you lie on the application, Steve? Where do you really live? And either way, you're guilty on one of those two. No, this is his quote. I think my standing up for the Constitution and standing by innocence until proven guilty is not a position supported by many. I don't want to think I'm being retaliated against for being the one voice of reason on this emotional roller coaster we're on. Really? That is the biggest crock and the biggest spin of BS I have ever seen. You're not there to defend the Constitution, Stevie boy. You got elected to represent the people of Fall River. And there wasn't one counselor who voted to remove Jasiel Correia II that said he was guilty. That vote was to remove him because he could not perform the duties with this cloud hanging over his head.
Or as I call it, the sword of Damocles.
The sword of Damocles, yeah. And to make this a retaliation because you're so smart, none of us know what the Constitution says. Nobody knows that there's a provision to be innocent until proven guilty. When has anybody in the city council, when has anybody on this show ever said that he was guilty? As a matter of fact, virtually every time we have a discussion about him, we say this does not change the fact that he's presumed innocent until proven guilty. This is about his ability to perform the duties and the kind of image he casts to the public as a mayor. And if you truly believe, Steve, if you just said, I don't care if he gets charged with a million things, I think he can still, that doesn't affect the city of Fall River. But you're too damn smart to say that, because then everybody would know what a gold-plated phony you are. You're trying to make this, you're going to fall on your sword for the Constitution. Poor Steve, the only defender of the Constitution. Well, you're not there to defend the Constitution. You're there to represent the people of Fall River. And obviously, the people of Fall River want them gone. But you don't care because you're John Kennedy. So you answer to a higher authority, the Constitution. Well, I'm sorry. There's another Constitution that says you don't. the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which clearly states you are answerable and accountable to the people of this city and of this state. And our Constitution was drafted before the United States Constitution. And you swore an oath to uphold the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So I don't care if you're presuming. This isn't about him being presumed innocent. This is about your responsibility to do your damn job, to represent the people of the city of Fall River as our Constitution. I'm defending the Constitution right now, the Constitution of Massachusetts. And you're ignoring the Constitution of Massachusetts. I had a debate one time with a presidential candidate who was the governor of Massachusetts, who vetoed capital punishment and was voted for by the voters of Massachusetts on a ballot. And I told him straight, I cannot vote for you, Governor Dukakis, so you know who it is, in case you don't know who ran for governor, who ran for president, who was a governor. I said, I can't vote for you, Governor Dukakis. And he said, why not? I said, because you're opposed to capital punishment. You have every right to be opposed to capital punishment. However, when you use your position as a politician to exercise your personal position over the will of the people, you are violating your obligation to uphold your constitutional duty to be our representative. And Steve Camara is doing exactly the same thing. And I'm tired of listening to him make himself a martyr, like he's some kind of martyr, and he's the only person intelligent enough to figure out that everybody else is wrong and only Steve Camara is right. So I'm tired of it. Go ahead, CJ. You're the guy that filed the complaint, so let me hear it.
I gotta agree with you, though. I mean, part of the first Article 5, you know.
That's right.
You know, it's very clear. And Steve has never represented the people. It doesn't matter if what the people want doesn't agree with your personal opinion. You are the voice of the people. And you are not there to judge whether or not they are right or wrong. You are not the voice of the mayor. Your votes cannot represent the will of the mayor. Your vote is to represent the will of the people. And if the Elections Commission decides on Thursday, and it probably won't be decided on Thursday, I was told, they'll probably have another hearing, that you can't be on the ballot, so be it. So be it. Go ahead and sue the city. Go right ahead. You filed this paperwork. That's a prima facie piece of evidence. The case is made. I have nothing else to do. You signed it, you had it notarized, and then you filed it with the County Registry of Deeds. Guess what? That's it. That's your primary residence. No matter what else you say, that's your primary residence. Okay? And if it's not, then it's perjury. And I personally will ask the district attorney to file charges of perjury against you. Because if it was me, if it was Chip, if it was anyone else watching this show, that's what would happen to them. And since this has come out, you still have not removed that Homestead Act on that property. So what does that tell you?
Or from the one you're living in.
Right. Well, the one that the one he's living in is 38 Cherry and Webb Lane, allegedly. That's his primary residence. But he keeps saying it's 55 LeBaron Street. Now, of course, I had to be a real sleuth here. So I sent somebody out last night to 55 LeBaron Street at 1:34 in the morning. And guess what? Steve Camara's car was nowhere to be found. I wonder what that means.
Did he go to Westport?
No, actually, he didn't. He should have done that.
He would have probably been arrested if they knew he was in Fall River and he was in Westport Harbor. But you know something, CJ? You're right. But what disturbs me is his constant ranting and putting himself in a position where he's always this amazing bastion of constitutional freedom, and he's fighting for the greater good. This is absolute crap. You're not, as I said, you're not standing up for the Constitution. You're violating the Constitution, because never, you are not standing up for the concept of innocent until proven guilty. That is not what you're doing, Steve. You're giving somebody a BS excuse and trying to make it look like, you know, this is retaliation. Well, the voters should retaliate. They should vote your butt out of office. Because you know something? The last time you got bounced out of office, when you were the president of the city council, you acted like a dictator then, because you did exactly what CJ said. You did whatever you wanted, not what the people wanted, not even what the council wanted, and they called it the Portuguese Mafia at that time. And the 5 of people who always voted in unison were all bounced out of the city council in 1995, because the same behavior pattern you're doing now is what you did in 95. And I hope the voters kick your butt out. It's that simple. And I'll say it on the air, and I don't care, because I hope they boot you out, because you've never been a representative of the people. You've only been a representative of Steve Camara. And your opinion is the only opinion that counts. And guess what? I've had situations where I believe in something nobody else believed in, but I at least had the courage to say, I don't give a damn what you think. I'm for this guy. But no, you got to make it a constitutional issue. You're like Joan of Arc. I'm waiting for you to come in on your white steed, waving the banners. Let's go. The Joan of Arc of Fall River, Steve Camara, the shining light among a beacon of hell and darkness over here in the darkness. That's him. If you listen to him quoting John F. Kennedy, and he's my idol, and shit, and he's also been a war hero.
And he can't get the quotes right. Hey,
I can't get the quotes right.
I have to break in here, because this comment is 10 minutes old. And I want to discuss it. You and I discussed earlier that we heard rumor that Jasiel may be stepping down today at LePage's Seafood or something. Well, this message is from Jordan James Sylvia. Being notified, Jasiel is resigning tonight after taking a plea for 7 years in prison. So I guess the charade is over. What will all the Jasiel supporters who have been claiming nonsense like innocent until proven guilty going to say now? Waiting for the SCOTUS appeal. If only 7 years, he got off very lightly. I've said throughout this, there was never going to be a trial. He was just clowning around until the end. Now, this is not confirmed. We don't know. This could still be rumor. I haven't been able to check Pacer to see if a plea deal was entered into the system, but it's possible. I mean, let's be real. Everyone else in this case has pled guilty, and they've all gotten about the same. 3, 6, and 7. Yeah. So this makes perfect sense.
Well, you know, CJ, I'm glad you read that, because this only reinforces this. We get back to this letter, that how much BS this is, because, you know, that's got nothing to do with it. Now he will no longer be innocent. He took a plea, so he's guilty. But that has nothing...
That's if he's taken the plea.
If he's taken the plea, that's what I said. Yeah. But that's irrelevant, because, again, what Steve Camara is talking about, that vote the city council did, had nothing to do whether he takes a plea, whether he's guilty or innocent. It was about his ability to perform the duties of the mayor. It wasn't, not one. You tell me, show me a clip from the council, show me an excerpt from a newspaper article where one councilor said he was guilty.
Nobody said he was guilty.
Nobody said it. So, again, another political stroke screen by our resident Joan of Arc. So, hey, everybody, I won't be here Friday. I don't know if there's going to be a show.
There will be no show on Friday.
And we will see you Monday. I will be out of state, so.
Unless I can get somebody together, if Jasiel does indeed take the plea, maybe I'll try to get a show together for Friday. But at this point, there is no show scheduled for Friday.
And if he takes the plea, Jordan,
you broke it.
You broke it.
So, hey, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next Monday.